Benito Mussolini was born in 1883 in the quiet Italian village of Predappio, surrounded by fields, stone houses, and the slow rhythm of rural life. His father, a passionate blacksmith, filled their small home with political arguments and the heat of the forge, while his mother, a patient schoolteacher, tried to give young Benito structure and discipline. Growing up in this tension between fire and order left a lasting mark on him. Even as a child, he sensed that ideas, anger, and ambition could shape a person's destiny, and he began to believe he was meant for something greater than the world he knew. Mussolini's childhood was marked by conflict and restlessness. He was bright and quick to learn, yet just as quick to anger. At school, he frequently got into fights with classmates and argued with teachers who tried to discipline him. Those who taught him saw intelligence in his sharp eyes, but were unsettled by the aggression simmering beneath the surface. He resisted rules, challenged authority, and behaved as though he were already in a battle with the world. These early clashes revealed a boy who felt too big for the boundaries placed around him, a boy whose anger and ambition grew together, shaping a future filled with both power and turmoil. As a young man, Mussolini moved restlessly from job to job, searching for a place in a rapidly changing Italy. He taught in small schools, labored in difficult conditions, and wrote for modest newspapers, all while struggling with poverty and frustration. It was within socialist circles that he discovered a sense of identity and purpose. He wrote fiery articles, delivered passionate speeches, and condemned injustice with words that stirred both workers and intellectuals. His charisma began to shine, and he emerged as a rising figure in the movement, using socialism not only as an ideology, but also as a stage to present himself as a leader with a powerful voice. In 1902, Mussolini fled across the border into Switzerland to avoid military service. Life there was difficult and uncertain. He moved from town to town looking for work, often hungry, cold, and unsure of where he would sleep next. Yet he used this hardship as fuel for growth. He studied philosophy, debated radical ideas with other exiles, and deepened his understanding of political struggle. He sharpened his skills as a speaker, learning to use words with precision and force. Switzerland became a harsh but formative school, shaping a man who believed that struggle, sacrifice, and confrontation were necessary to transform society and himself. Mussolini returned to Italy in 1904 and completed the military service he had once tried to escape. Afterward, he immersed himself in political journalism with renewed intensity. His articles were sharp, confrontational, and filled with emotional force. He criticized corruption, challenged the church, attacked the monarchy, and called for revolutionary change. His influence grew quickly, and he became one of the most recognized voices in the socialist movement. Yet his radical nature and expanding ego created tensions, hinting that his ambitions would soon exceed the boundaries of socialism itself. World War I dramatically reshaped Mussolini's political path. While most socialists condemned the war as a capitalist conflict, Mussolini broke ranks and insisted that Italy must join the fight. He claimed that war could forge a stronger nation and inspire a new sense of unity and purpose. His position stunned his comrades, who saw it as betrayal. Expelled from the Socialist Party, Mussolini stood alone, separated from the movement that had once embraced him. Turning toward nationalism, he began crafting a new political vision, one that glorified strength, discipline, and the belief that only a determined leader could guide Italy to greatness. In 1919, Mussolini founded the fascist movement, a mix of nationalism, anger, and promises of restoring Italy's lost pride. At first, the movement was small and chaotic, a scattered group of war veterans, young radicals, and street fighters wearing black shirts. They disrupted meetings, intimidated opponents, and claimed they were defending Italy from chaos. As the nation faced inflation, unemployment, and political violence, more people turned to Mussolini, believing that only a strong leader could restore order. What had begun as a fringe group was rapidly becoming a powerful force, fueled by fear, frustration, and Mussolini's growing ambition. By 1922, Italy was paralyzed by political instability. Governments collapsed one after another, and the fear of revolution spread across the country. Mussolini seized the opportunity. He organized the March on Rome, sending thousands of black shirts toward the capital in a dramatic display of strength. Although the march itself was less violent than legend would later suggest, its psychological impact was immense. The king, fearing civil war and doubting the army's loyalty, invited Mussolini to form a government. At just 39 years old, he rose from the margins of politics to prime minister without a single major battle. Once in power, Mussolini moved swiftly to dismantle Italy's fragile democracy. Over the next few years, he weakened parliament, silenced independent newspapers, and eliminated political rivals through intimidation and force. Opposition parties were banned, dissent was punished, and a secret police force ensured loyalty. Mussolini cultivated the image of Il Duce, the leader, portraying himself as the embodiment of discipline and national strength. Behind this crafted persona stood a regime built on repression, fear, and the slow erosion of individual freedoms, one that would reshape Italy for decades. As Mussolini tightened his control, his image became the cornerstone of the regime. His face appeared on posters, statues, films, and schoolbooks. Children memorized songs praising him. Crowds filled squares during orchestrated rallies where he delivered theatrical speeches from balconies. He portrayed himself as tireless, wise, and infallible, the one man destined to guide Italy toward greatness. Public works and early reforms strengthened this illusion, persuading many Italians to trust him. But beneath the grandeur, criticism became dangerous, dissent was suppressed, and the nation increasingly revolved around the myth of a leader who demanded absolute loyalty. By the late 1930s, Mussolini drew closer to Adolf Hitler, believing that an alliance with Nazi Germany would elevate Italy to the status of a major empire. The two dictators presented themselves as architects of a new Europe shaped through strength and fear. But Mussolini overestimated Italy's military capabilities and underestimated Hitler's ambitions. As he followed Germany into new conquests and conflicts, he entangled Italy in a war it was unprepared to fight, setting the stage for national disaster and the ultimate collapse of his own regime. World War II exposed the deep weaknesses of Mussolini's rule. Italian armies suffered defeat after defeat in North Africa, in the Balkans, and even on their own soil. The promises of swift victory vanished, replaced by reports of retreat, loss, and occupation. Bombings, shortages, and fear swept through Italian cities. Many began to blame Mussolini for leading them blindly into catastrophe. Even within the fascist leadership, loyalty cracked, revealing the emptiness of the strongman image he had built. The regime that once seemed unshakable was now breaking apart. In 1943, as Allied forces invaded Italy, Mussolini's political support collapsed. Members of his own Grand Council voted to remove him, and the king ordered his arrest. After more than 2 decades of absolute control, Mussolini's fall was sudden, dramatic, and humiliating. The dictator who had once commanded the state, the army, and the press was now a prisoner, no longer shaping events, but carried along by them. His downfall marked the beginning of the end for the fascist regime and set the stage for Italy's liberation. Though German forces rescued Mussolini and installed him as the head of a puppet state in northern Italy, his authority was an illusion. The war was nearing its end, and defeat was inevitable. In April 1945, he attempted to escape towards Switzerland, disguised as a soldier within a German convoy. Near Lake Como, Italian resistance fighters recognized and captured him. The man who had once stood on balconies above roaring crowds was now a desperate fugitive, caught in the final collapse of the empire he tried to build. On April 28, 1945, Mussolini was executed by Italian resistance fighters. His body was taken to Milan and displayed publicly, marking a violent end to a regime built on power, fear, and propaganda. Mussolini's legacy remains deeply controversial, remembered not for the glory he sought, but for the dictatorship, censorship, and suffering he imposed. His rise and fall stand as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and absolute power, lessons that echo long beyond his lifetime.